Well, hello everyone. I am here to discuss one of the very few complaints that I have about these wonderful little mini-verse kits is primarily that it's not a great idea to use UV resin for processes like this. But if we're going to have to use UV resin for it, there are some things we can do to prevent this from happening, which this looked perfect when I left it the night before. When I came back in the morning, all of the air that had come from the kinetic sand that they have in the kit, ew, that's weird, had released its air bubbles, and now they are in a puddle at the top, which I don't like. So let's unbox this together and we will discuss the things that we can do. We're primarily going to glue the kinetic sand and let it dry overnight first so that there is not room for air bubbles to be there, and it will also put our fish in place without having to use the UV resin for that. So theoretically we'll be able to get a better pour for our UV resin, and hopefully it will work better than this did. So let's unbox, and I will start mixing the Tech Bond PVA glue into whatever sand color we have gotten for our betta fish, and then we will mix it together and put it back in the pot and be letting it dry overnight before we try to do the resin again. I'll see you in a second. Good morning, everyone. Our little betta fish has dried beautifully overnight, and today we are going to add his epoxy. Now, I wanted to talk about why UV resin, which is adorable, is not good for this. And whilst I do that, I'm going to weigh this and see how much resin we actually need to fill this up. UV resin is very, very viscous, typically, meaning it's very thick, and it doesn't, what did I do with my scale? It's very viscous, and it doesn't typically do well in large pores. The reason for that, one, it's super viscous, so it's hard for it. Let's see how much this weighs. So we need about 20 grams roughly of epoxy, we'll say. Okay, and so then we are going to get our mixing cup, wherever I have let it get off to, and that is 8 grams, so we will tare. And now we are going to use 10 grams each of our epoxy resin. Now, I want you to not be scared of epoxy resin that is in 2 parts, because it's not a bad thing. It's, you just need to measure. If you guess, it will come out wrong. That is just a simple fact. Guessing is a bad idea. I'm going to probably over pour a little bit here. That's my fan blowing the stream, don't be alarmed. Because you will lose some just to mixing. So I'm going to probably do 15 grams of each. And the other most important part is to mix it really well. And if there are bubbles, that is okay. We just don't want the bubbles to stay. And with 2-part epoxy resin, because it cures, woo, so nice and slowly, I'm going to fling resin all over with this fan. Turn that away for a second. You have enough time for the bubbles to actually settle out of it, is the main difference. I'm going to call that 15 grams because it's got to be so close. Okay, there's part 1. Now, we need not be afraid of the epoxy resin. You can get ones that are like very low smell, etc. I either have lost my sense of smell to it, which would be a bad sign, but this particular brand does not bother me, and I will link it below. But either way, the whole point is, once it's all mixed, we will just let it sit, because you have ages. You have like 48 hours before this is fully purely cured, which is why we will cover it with like a little dust cover probably. Okay, so now the next rule for any epoxy resin, you need to mix it for 2 whole minutes. I'm going to speed that up. You don't need to see that, but we're going to mix this for 2 whole minutes, no matter how bubbly it is, and then we'll just let it sit. And when it's done sitting, we'll be able to pour it. The most important thing will be getting into these areas. So I may use a syringe to fill in between and under the leaves to help prevent us having less air bubbles. All right, let's get started. You enjoyed that tiny bubble popping video, because I did, and I have let this sit for about 35 minutes, and as you can see, it has naturally divested itself of the bubbles. So if you are forced to use the UV resin that comes with it for your fishy fish, do not take it outside. Let it settle in the dark overnight if you must. Make sure you do the PVA glue first to the sand, like we talked about, specifically, or none of this will work. But if you must use this, let it sit like in a semi-dark space overnight, so you get your best chance of it divesting itself of its bubbles, and then take it outside to cure or cure it. Now, I'm going to use a little syringe and put it all around the plant, because this is where a bunch of bubbles are 100% I know are going to get caught. And then we will pour it in, and then we will let it set for 24 to 48 hours, and we will take another look at it. Well, good morning, everyone. We are back for the big reveal. It has been 24 hours, which means that this particular 2-part resin is cured to the touch, basically. It's not completely cured to rock hardness, but it's safe to handle at this point. So remember that this is where we started with the UV resin, and this is where we have ended up. I don't even mind that one little bubble. Look how much better! We did great. We let the bubbles settle out for the most part. I don't even mind that one bubble. There's no bubbles. Sorry, my hands are just steamy. There are no bubbles in our plant, which is awesome. No trapped bubbles in there. No trapped bubbles around our fish-a-fish. Exponentially better than this result. Anyway, if you happen to try my little hacking idea here, I'd be so honored to know if it worked out for you. I hope that you will give these a try, and I hope you're enjoying watching me unbox all of these. I'll be doing another shorter video of me fixing the butterfly fish. So stay tuned, but this is a much better way to do this if you would like something to come out perfectly. I don't even mind little tiny micro bubbles. I think it's adorable, and I'm not going to put it in a pressure chamber. So that's about as good as it can get. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to all my patrons for your unending support, and I hope you will check out another one of my videos about these great Miniverse products. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!